My name is Gravity, and on this episode of the Battlefield Show, Julian and I discuss all things new in the world of 2042. Shutdown, the new seasonal event, has been out a week. How does it stack up to previous events? All Chat, a staple of the gaming world, is now back in 2042. But is it doomed from the start? The vehicle call-in system. How effective is it in the grand scheme of things, and can it be improved? Gravity's Portal project. Can Portal's 1942 maps be reworked to better fit the main game? Joining us this week to discuss all these topics and more is Battlefield content creator and Twitch streamer FlexLanes. This is the Battlefield Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, JulianJanganoo, of course, and with my co-host, Gravity, back after a little hiatus there. But there's a lot to talk about here for the mid-season event coming up, or that's here already. I forgot. Yeah. I'm like stuck in the past. There's a new mid-season event going on right now. We got a new update, a small update regarding all chat mostly, and some other skin changes so you can actually play with your favorite skins. Oh my god. And a whole bunch of other news. So but we're here joined by a really talented player. I've been playing Battlefield 2042 for quite a while. I ran into his Twitch stream a few times in the middle of the night, and we saw him, and he's a great pilot, really good. He's been murdering me on some matches back in the day. I think he was playing with the PP, and man, just mowing down people with that. I think it's your favorite gun still. But yes, we're joined here by FlexLanes. How you doing, man?
Hey, doing good. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, very talented player, and I really wanted to get to know you. I haven't talked too much, just a little bit on your chat and whatnot. So, how did you get into Battlefield? Let's just start there.
All right, so my start in Battlefield was around the BC2 age.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so that was my biggest point where I had the most amount of friends to play with, so that's what we played. But honestly, after that, everybody else switched to COD around my friend group, so I went into the COD days for so long, for years, up until pretty much 2042, where I jumped back on Battlefield.
Oh, right.
So wow, you missed out on BF3 and BF4 and BF1 and BF5?
Basically, okay. I played like 2 months of Battlefield 5 right before 2042 came out, and then started playing 2042.
Oh my goodness, man, you missed a lot.
I know. Sometimes, like when I don't know, I start getting conversations with people that have played all the previous ones, and you start talking about maps, I'm just left there like speechless because I'm like, I don't know the names, I don't know what's going on.
Well, I mean, you got two Bad Company 2 maps that were remade in 2042. I'm guessing you're enjoying those pretty well.
Oh, definitely. It was a flashback right there once I started playing those maps.
See, I'm still, me and Gravity are still blown away by the changes they did with Valparaiso, because we've only ever known it as a rush map, pretty much. Or what was the other mode? Squad Rush or something? They had another mode for that.
In Bad Company 2?
Yeah. Squad Obliteration or something like that.
It was...
There's there's one wacky game mode that they had for that map. It was only 2 modes.
Let's see here.
Yeah.
Onslaught, Squad Rush, and Rush. Yeah. That's the 3, yeah.
Yeah. So they took Rush and pretty much made that into a full-fledged 64-player map. What do you think of that? Like, it's pretty crazy, huh?
I don't know. I loved it. And now, where my mind's a little different, because to be honest, especially when I was playing BC2 and back in the day, I was a filthy casual. So the guy you see on Xbox shooting up in the sky in the corner of the map, that was probably me back in the day. So now I get to enjoy it with a better mindset of I'm trying to do good for the team, win. So it's pretty fun now that I get to enjoy it again.
So 2042 is your most, your first serious Battlefield game then?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so for sure.
Wow, that must be quite an experience. That's so different from all the other Battlefield games, that were just at the beginning of Frostbite coming out. That must have been a total shock. I mean, did you enjoy 2042 right away?
Actually did. The class system was a little bit wonky. I didn't expect there to be a specialist. And even there's some like Sundance. I haven't played 1 minute of her. I just don't like the idea of the wingsuit. But hey, I'm glad they brought back the old class system.
Yeah, I mean, but you still got the specialists nonetheless.
Yeah, at least it's
So,
a step closer, you know.
yeah. So, I mean, what's the best thing you like about the new class system that they added back?
It gives me a little bit more, especially when I'm in the air in the Nightbird, it gives me a little bit more readability into what that person's gonna have. Because obviously before it was I expect a rocket in everybody's hands. Now I can clearly see, okay, I have a recon, a medic, and a engineer. Let me take out the engineer, then recon, and then I'll go for the medic. So at least gives me a little bit more.
So yeah. So when you're Q spotting, that's when you can see the emblem above their names pretty clearly
Yes.
in the Nightbird. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So are there more? Like what's the differences between before the class system and now? You see more rockets, more stingers, or
Definitely
less?
less. Definitely less. But usually it'll be more of a once I start getting a little bit hot in the game and I'm doing well, then I start seeing more engineers. But in the beginning, it's a nice mix where it's not too aggressive, not too many Lizzies, not too much
Right.
explosives heading my way.
I know. I just want to pick your brain on all these things because I don't fly much, and I know you're a really good pilot and whatnot. But with the list changes you bring up, did those help out a bit? Are you getting still rocked by those missiles, or what?
Well, if it's in the hands of a good player, I'm gonna get rocked eventually. I'll be able to dodge a few, but
Eventually.
they're gonna get me eventually. But at least they've fixed it where there was about 2 weeks where there was a super Lizzie, what I would call it, where it was just too fast, too many of them, and I'm glad that's over with. But either way, you're gonna get rocked if it's a good player shooting you with a Lizzie. It's too easy.
Okay, and the last thing that's a huge problem for a lot of pilots is the laser tank. And do you keep getting one shot from across the map with that thing, or is that pretty rare?
No, every other game will happen. It's at a point
Oh,
where
no.
I have a little system, which you can see me doing it live anyway, so I don't care to speak about it. If I get
No,
killed
explain
yeah,
because not everyone has seen your stuff
it,
yet.
if I get killed once, because I'll start with the miniguns, I'll swap into the 20 mils and AGMs, and at
Okay.
that point, I'll get kind of spicy and like, okay, I'm not gonna let any of your vehicles get out just for having a Tor tank out there
The Tor
one-shotting
tank.
me. Yeah, yeah. Because it's
Oh.
at first you can't see it. Some of the maps, or most of the maps really, from spawn they can see you if you go up just a little bit up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what a nuisance.
So you try to keep low at the beginning of certain. Let's say like discarded. You
Pardon?
kind of just stay really low for that time because I know you could probably get you from spawn. I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
I'll dip down really fast, head over to A,
Okay.
then straight to really I'll skip A. I'll go straight to D where the middle of the boat is, and
Right.
then there I can go to the back section and kind of look and see where their vehicles are heading out. But that is one of the maps where they don't exactly get you from spawn, so that one's a little helpful.
Oh, okay.
It's not like
What is one
Spearhead.
like Spearhead? Yeah.
Spearhead,
God.
if you just go forward with the same height that you spawn in,
Yeah.
the toy tank's gonna get you every single time.
Oh God.
And that's just 2 seconds of flying forward. It's not like you went to the middle of the map. It's you're still in your spawn, just a little bit closer. Boom.
What are your thoughts on the Tor tank?
Jesus.
Like, I used to play the regular tank of M1A5 a lot and get those like one-shot kills and get Nightbirds, and that felt like there was some sort of skill. I would take a couple shots, measure out the distances and the bullet drop. With the Tor tank, it's too easy. I don't think that sort of mechanic hit scan tank belongs because first of all, the tank can survive outside of spawn if you don't have a crew with sentinels and the new Camila gadget. So
Right.
they make it so you have to kind of sit in spawn and just pick your shots. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like it's designed that way to. It's just a bad design when you really think about it.
I think so.
It even has a mode to pretty much just perch yourself somewhere so you get better accuracy, and that's something the Battlefield should not be promoting right now, especially after the very bad decisions they had in Battlefield 5, of those kind of air vehicles just kind of perching somewhere and near the back, because that's where they would reload and everything. They would have the reload stations that they have to build and all that shenanigans. So yeah, more movement the better. So I don't know. I bring up to you guys, Flex and Grab. How would you nerf this thing?
I'd take it out of the game.
Really? I mean, that's not going to happen. So other than taking it out of the game, how would you nerf it? Because they don't do that very often. Because you paid for it, by the way.
Yeah. I would go along the lines of making it not a one shot. Add either that or add some sort of bullet drop, but at least making it not a one shot where, okay, maybe it kills my engines and I start dropping really fast. I wouldn't mind that. I would have to just kind of maneuver close to the ground. But it being a one shot from spawn from 800 meters away, that's where I draw a line of, okay, no, that's too much. It's ridiculous.
So my issue with that is, if you take away the one-shot capability, you pretty much nerf the vehicle entirely into the ground, and it makes it unusable. Because if you, against an air transport like a Condor or a Hind, it still takes like 3 or 4 shots with a railgun tank to kill it. Every other helicopter, every other jet, it's all one-shot kill. So that's kind of ridiculous. And as you said earlier, there's that no skill reward ceiling to it. And more importantly, you can do this across the map. Like there's almost no, it's practically hit scan. And again, as you said, these things they almost built to stay in the uncap, which is not where you want a vehicle to be. One, you've got a whole group of players playing outside in the spawn where you can't deal with them. If you take a Nightbird or something and you say, I want to deal with this tank, you have to go in the uncap. And then you still probably can't deal with that tank because it has a gunner. It's got an Irish APS, an Irish Sentinel there, and it just becomes a whole frustrating thing. And then you've got other things that are spawning in the main, like a Wildcat that's probably sitting right on top of the thing because it can shoot across the map anyway. So you still can't deal with these things from the air anyway. On top of that, the design of having a vehicle that just doesn't leave the main is just so anti-Battlefield. It really is. Yeah, and the problem with its design is that, sure, hitting things across the map is stupid already, but it has to. The closer you are to this vehicle on the ground, the worse it gets. Whether or not you're having to deal with people with C5 running around you, whether or not you have a tank running around you or close engagement, it's ridiculous. And the amount of satisfaction you get from sitting in the main is just, it gets boring so quick. And I get that there are people that want to do that because they're playing for the team, but it's just, again, it feels so un-Battlefield to have this vehicle there. And then if you're in any other vehicle, it's even worse because you get hit from across the map with 0 counter whatsoever, even if you have APS. If you're in another tank, you cannot deal with this tank at long range, and it's just, you can't APS it, you can't get away from it. It's ridiculous.
I was thinking of changing the mechanics of it instead of having it be a one shot. Like there's 2 modes, right? There's the one where where you move fast and then you can use the laser tank against whatever, but it doesn't do much damage to air vehicles, but it does really a lot of damage to tanks. And the other thing was, if you wanted to keep the second mode where you're kind of staying still, I forget what, Sentinel mode or something, right? I forget what it was. But instead of it being a laser, rail gun, it could be like a shotgun or something, maybe, because it'll like disperse, and then you can do some damage to things in the air. Maybe that's a way to do it. Like instead of a one shot, it could be, multiple shots at one time, and they'll just all do less damage.
I think what the design of the tank is just fundamentally flawed from the get-go, and you could rework it, but it would be an entirely new vehicle. I think from the point of view of having a long-range tank asset that transforms and goes into siege mode, just make it a siege tank.
Mode. That's
just make it a siege mode from like StarCraft or something. Have this tank, if you're gonna sit in the uncap, have this tank transform, siege into the ground, and open up, expose an engine part or something that makes it incredibly weak that you can shoot it, actually do damage to it in the uncap. Like you can actually hit it. It's very weak once it goes into siege mode. And instead of having a railgun asset, you turn it into an actual siege tank, where instead of having a super fast railgun velocity insta kill thing, you fire a very long range projectile that has a high HE shell type of arch to it, and you can shoot things across the map, and it has fairly reasonable splash damage to it. And this way you can actually engage at long range targets. It's got skill to it, and it's not insta kill, and there's actually some value to long range siege mode like that. That would be the only way in my mind like you would possibly fix the vehicle.
I was thinking when you were explaining that, I was thinking Halo. You know those the big fucking tanks, and they shoot like a big ball out.
Oh, they're the wraiths. Yeah, they essentially like that type of thing where you shoot a big heavy ordnance. Think of like BF5. There was the Sturm Tiger, right? So essentially, turn the Sturm Tiger into this vehicle, but have it maybe shoot maybe lower the rate of fire, lower the radius a little bit, but give it a cool explosive effect type of thing. But you can shoot it really far, and maybe you can even add in something like the BF1. Remember when you were in the Behemoth and you had the map and you can kind of see where the shell was going to go on the map? Add that into the tank, so you can kind of have a sensory array of what targets you're going to hit. But at least make it weak enough that once it goes into this mode where 2 rockets from M5 or something across the map can just dome this thing instantly. That would be, so you have a really highly effective, long range tank, but it's also highly counterable and highly vulnerable once it gets into that mode. I just think having an insta-kill railgun tank across the map is way too strong and very, unbecoming of the game.
100%.
Yeah. So Flex, about the Nightbird, how is it? Has it gotten better? I know that's your baby. How's that going?
It's right now. It's probably one of the best points I've played with it. Probably close to season 2, there was this point where they kind of ruined the movement. They made the wobble that it has just way too much. So then I ended up switching to the stealth, which at that point was a complete monster. But right now the miniguns feel great. Rocket pods are nerfed, but the key is to go AGMs anyway. AGMs miniguns. So I feel right now it is at a sweet point where easy to take out by so many other things. So for anyone crying about like, oh, it's too OP, it's a one shot for a lot of things. But if you're skilled enough to really know to position yourself, to watch your shots, awareness, and all that stuff, it's a really great tool to fly around Conquest in.
Any of those weird bugs still in that for the Nightbird, like getting shot out?
Yeah, so sometimes self-flam recoilless will pop you out, the passenger or the pilot, but leave the Nightbird intact to get stolen. The AA missile does the same thing. There's little bugs where sometimes if you swap out to your passenger seat to maybe take a shot to swap back in, then the audio gets messed up. There's so many tiny little bugs where I've already kind of gotten used to it. I've gotten to a point where I'm not going to complain anymore. They're in there and they've been here for months. I'll deal with it. But so far it's great.
Okay, well, let's just get into the new stuff for 2042. And over the past week, we've all been either enjoying or hating the new mid-season event. It's a brand new game mode. Maybe you guys can explain it better than I could. I was saying it's like a cheap knockoff of like a CSGO, kind of planting bombs, or a Valorant kind of thing without a buy stage and 2 bombs. But Grav, can you explain this new Leviathan Rising event here?
I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It really is a battlefieldization of a typical plant the bomb and Counter-Strike type of mode. And honestly, I have no problem with that. I think for what it is, it's a fairly enjoyable mode. It has its issues, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's obviously a mode where you take these 2 assets and you have an option of just, slowly ticking away at 3 objectives, and I think that's really, really cool. And you swap teams and you go back, and the team with the winning amount of points deducted or hacked or whatever the actual term is wins. I think it's perfectly fine. I think there are a couple issues with it. First off, that it's a very highly competitive mode, and very, in theory, if you had 2 really good teams going at it, would be a fantastic competitive mode. The problem is you're playing it in pubs, and teams can get one-sided. And then there's a bunch of people that play it and they go, well, Battlefield shouldn't be 8v8, and it should be 64v whatever, and it's too slow. I think for the mode, I think it's completely fine. I think compared to, what did they do? The 8v8 squad rush, like back in season 1 or 2, where they played on Caspian or something. This blows that out of the water. It really does. Yeah. This is so much more enjoyable. And you can still have high kill counts in this mode. You just have to make sure that players know what they're doing. I think the only other 2 issues with it, one is that, again, as being a competitive mode, this really could have been one of those things where you launch after 2 or 3 months after the game and include a playlist or a SBMM type of thing in there with the group and say, hey, this is going to be our DICE can come out and say, this is going to be our big competitive mode. Here we're going to include spectator. We're going to include kind of like, we can even run like an integrated pools or daily tournaments or something with it, where we can have a team go forth. Like, you really could go really strongly with this and try to get some skills players to really make a thing of it. But again, being in the state of the game the way it is, I think it'll just get old quickly, and I just think that it's not, the game audience isn't as competitive enough to hold it up for long. The skin rewards are nice for it, and the other thing, the last thing about it is, it could probably be balanced a little bit better. I've seen takes and videos on YouTube and streamers saying that the specialists themselves kind of ruin it, whereas you have certain specialists that kind of cheese the thing, where you have like the Blasco, you got spawn beacons, you got tugs, you got C4 on points, Pake wall hacks, McKay's grappling in places that they shouldn't get to get around places. Maybe without specialists, or maybe with specialist blocks, it would be a little better. I don't know how it would play if you put it on the BF3 portal mode and say, hey, go play it without specialists. That'd be interesting. But I think overall, for what it is, it's a pretty solid mode.
Go ahead, Flex.
Okay, well, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, everything you said was basically true. First of all, the skins, they look amazing. I think they're probably the best skins they've added to the game as of yet. But I would have wished they wouldn't have gone with Pike as the free one, because then that's kind of like, hey guys, use Pike, and the wall hacks are so annoying. Aside from that, I think they missed a major opportunity to actually make competitive, because like you said, the typical player isn't going to really be that competitive. And I played with just 3 other friends, and we basically controlled our games for as many hours that we played. I think we played like 9-10 hours. So it got kind of boring, just because if even just with 4 people you go into a pub game, you can really control it, and then it becomes kind of boring because, okay, they're going to spawn right here, and then we can just clear them out for 7 minutes. And I think they could have gone with maybe a week-long tournament ranking system to get really people grinding the mode, because after that first 10-hour sprint, I kind of stopped playing the mode. I was like, okay, yeah, it's okay. It's fun. I dropped it.
And I don't think it would have been too crazy of an idea to say, hey, people can we'll retool the matchmaking process for this a little bit, so that 3 or 4 man squads get placed against teams of 3 or 4 man squads, so that you can actually have a competitive challenge. I don't mind waiting an extra minute in queue if I know for a fact I'm going to have a harder game. But at the same time, you go, well, it's going to be like a 2 week long event. It's not worth it to go through that process. I can understand that. But again, in the long term, if you launch a mode with the next Battlefield like this and say, hey, we're actually going to put the effort in, and this will be the thing with SPMM, then yeah, totally, this could be a pretty solid community event. Also, I don't understand why this is the type of mode that I would say, this should be in the Portal thing. Like, you should add this as an option for community players to launch in Portal. Like, and I don't understand why it's not. Like, this is the type of thing I would like to see.
Well, my take on this is that for these events and these modes, the new developers over there at DICE, this new team is kind of. I feel like they're coming up with ideas for these events, and they're coming up with special modes because that's the theme, right? And I think they're just kind of testing the waters. Like, just put something out there. It might be a banger. It might not. It's put it as an event. This is our testing grounds, pretty much. I mean, this whole fucking game is a testing ground, pretty much, for maybe future titles, which I'm sure they're going to take a lot of these ideas they have in 2042 over.
Yeah.
But I think personally, this mode is a banger. Not and they put in a lot of work into it, and I think it stands out just enough from other competitive games that I think this could be their own. You know, it doesn't really evolve a bomb, right? So it kind of stands out from that. It's more of like a device that's destroying data, whatever, but it's like more battlefieldized, I suppose, to kind of fit with the lore. There's no buying kind of mode in the beginning, so that kind of stands out. You can have respawns, as many as you need to, but you got to be, either spawn on your squad, which is nice. A lot of people like that in Battlefield now. In the past, we didn't really have that much, only the squad leader. But you have to strategize. Do you want to go back to go get the bomb, or do you want to be, spawn with your squad and kind of control the area? I think this mode, I this is gonna be a weird take, but I think this mode, if it came out at launch, would, in comparison to Hazard Zone, would be way better. Like, if you replace this mode with Hazard Zone and start putting some work into it, like modifying it, like around the specialists and everything, keep it like as a separate mode. I think you can make a competitive scene, but you got to start it out that way.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
You need the back end,
Like,
you need the infrastructure.
Yeah,
yes.
you need the back. Yeah. And Hazard Zone didn't have that really.
No.
You have your buy mode right in the beginning, but it was so like pathetic, right? It was just so like, oh, whatever. Like, I earned so much of the waffles already. I could just buy whatever I want, kind of stuff. There was really not
I
much
agree,
to
and
it.
I think that the mode definitely could have some tweaks to it. Like, you maybe could have some flashier elements. You can tinker with spawn locations. You can tinker with maybe the weapon options. Because the problem with half the
there's a
time
lot
is that
you
you've
can do.
got like, two people on a hill sniping on flash, but you're not helping the rest of the team at all, right? Right. So you can tweak
It's
certain
pub.
requirements,
Yeah.
right? It's pubbing, right? But if you end up having, that's the other thing, is that you are gonna have, it's meant to be a competitive mode, right? So literally any competitive mode for any game, there are always going to be curb stomps, no matter what you do. But there's always also going to be the opportunity for really strong, competitive games, and you search for those. So yeah, I completely agree that this is the type of situation you would have for an SPMM type mode. As long as you have spectator mode, then you really have something special.
Oh,
here. Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's why I think it's a banger, because I was thinking about competitive events and casting like you do, Gravity. You can follow the team quite easily.
Yeah.
As to, they're going up, they're bringing the, what do you call that stupid device? I don't know what
The
they call
lance.
it. The lance, yeah, which is a cool name, by the way, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of strategy to it, right? You can send 4 people one way, 4 another, a whole team, in one direction,
But it's weird. Yeah, when you're comparing it to other games like Overwatch or Valorant or CS:GO, this kind of stands out, does it not?
It does.
Like,
it's very much a Battlefield style CS:GO S&D type mode. The thing is, Battlefield has experimented with modes where it's like you only spawn once. You have modes like that,
Right.
where there's Battle Royale. There was incursions, and there was one more. A BF5 had like the end of like the sudden death type round where you would barely ever see it. Yeah. I feel like one life rounds are so on Battlefield, and I feel like most players feel like that too. This is like one of the few modes where you go, there's a rapidly respawning mode where I actually feel like it's competitive, and it really works well with the objective of the mode. So there's a lot to this particular thing, and even if they tweak it a little bit, this could be something I'd like to see come back and later on in this game or even another game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And with a little bit of SB skill-based matchmaking added to it, because there was a few points where I would see just a rando pick it up and go just the opposite way, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And I even saw one video of Rick Shade of them being on the objective. The guy he looked so confused, and he was just holding it, and eventually just redeployed because they were like, "Do something, do something, do something."
You know what I'm thinking? Like, speaking of that, planting the bomb is very weird. I have to use the
Who uses the B button? What kind of design is
B
that?
on keyboard.
Oh
I'm like,
God.
I'm thinking that's what happened to that kid, is that he didn't have B binded to anything, right? And he lost the bind. And so there's nothing he could have done with it, so he had to redeploy.
Ridiculous.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, B is very odd to play.
Why is it just not E, the interactable? It's
exactly
so ridiculous.
Oh, you use that to pick it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and disarm it. So just
there must have been a reason why.
There must have been. Yeah. But
yeah, maybe some sort of a technical barrier or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I get this. It's a really cool mode that's very unique to an extent.
Yeah.
It's just, it sucks because if you play by yourself, I mean, there's going to be a lot of times you're just going to get smoked, right? There's no communication. This is a competitive game, so playing with your friends is so much better.
So let me be clear here. If this mode ever comes back, there's a couple things it needs. One, it needs skill-based matchmaking, and when I say that, let me be clear. There should only be skill-based matchmaking in Battlefield for very slow player events and game modes. Never 32, never 64. It should only stay in this type of event style game mode. Two, it needs, if you're going to launch it, you need spectator mode. You need to have some sort of competitive environment where players can, actually kind of have some sort of competitive league or tournament, or, just see how it works out. And number three, you need to have some sort of way to, if you're not going to have SBMM, you need a way to matchmake against other pre-made teams. At least have a way to have groups of players play against each other to increase the competitiveness of the player base, and not just have a bunch of randos versus two pre-made teams or whatever. That's kind of bad. But yeah, solid mode. Looking forward to it. Hopefully again.
Hey, there's another week. There's another week for this. And in previous seasons in these game modes, they kind of like switch things up a little bit. Do you think that's going to be the case here? Like increased player count or increased rounds?
They never, in those, every time they've done that, they've always announced it beforehand that, hey, week 2 is going to be a different player count. I don't think they ever announced anything different specifically with this mode, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you should have more rounds, to be honest. Like,
yeah, that's another complaint about it.
5 or something. Yeah.
That's another complaint, that maybe the rounds go too quickly, or there's too few rounds. But then again, this again comes down to, if you're having a really competitive match, you want it to last longer. If you're curb stomping a team where people are leaving, then who cares? I want to get in the next game with a different group.
Right. 100%. Okay, so the other new thing here is all chat. It was in the 4.1.1 patch, I believe, that came out not too long ago. So, what do you guys think, Flex? People talking shit or what? When you're flying around and stuff?
They aren't, but I think it's because it's off by default. No one knows. I think no one knows. Usually it's maybe every game, 1 or 2 people that go like, oh, this guy in the Nightbird's being a nuisance from the enemy team. But that's 1 or 2 people. That's every other game, every game. I think no one knows about it. They should have had it on by default and had people, okay, just turn it off if you want, because they don't know. I mean, out of all the people that actually are following the Twitter account for Battlefield, how many are actually reading the patch notes to figure out that something's happening?
It's
I don't think
quite
so many.
Convoluted. It's deep in there to actually enable all chat. So, what does it say there, Grav? What do you have to do to?
It's in your options, display, HUD general, chat section. So you have to go through like 3 menus. Yeah, I mean, it's not that bad, but the problem is once they stop announcing it, then people who buy the game are not going to have a clue that it even exists.
exactly. And maybe that's by design. I think they don't want. Maybe they're skirting an EA policy. Don't you think?
I don't think they're skirting an EA policy. I just think that they're going in it with a very timid mindset. Like, we really, really don't want all chat in this game. So
Right.
we don't want people bad mouthing. We don't want people harassing each other. I mean, they're really trying to keep that positivity environment, which, you know, good for them and all, but this isn't the right. I mean, it's a Battlefield game, you know. It's it doesn't. It's just don't do it. It don't. That's the game doesn't need it. You don't need to. I mean, you already have the craziest chat censors filters whatsoever anyway. That misfilter half the words you use anyway. I will say that with regard to all chat, it's bugged in a couple different instances.
Yeah.
If you don't have it enabled, you cannot see what people on your team are typing on all chat. So even if your people are in your team typing all chat, you can't see it. I will also say that part of the reason also why it probably isn't being used as much is, one, because like you said, people don't know about it and they're not enabling it because half the probably a vast majority of the gamer of the player base doesn't pay attention to tweets and news and updates and all that stuff, so they don't know it's there. And the other part is console players really probably aren't typing because because the game is like what, 50-75% of the lobby is consoles. And you have to go through that whole menu, and you can't just quickly flip to hit the JK and type and badmouth somebody. You have to go through the whole menu and type it up with your controller, which is a pain in the ass to do. So I'm sure there's less chatting in general, even if all chat is enabled. And on top of that, console players can't even type in all chat post game like the rest of us anyway, which is really weird. So that's probably an issue as well. But all in all, if you combine like every one of these points, it really comes down to all chat is not being utilized anywhere near as much as it should be or as effectively as it can be.
Yeah, it's whatever. I mean, I didn't care for it, to be honest, when it came out, but it's there. Have fun, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I haven't seen any abuse on it. Like, I mean,
I've seen nothing.
Right. It's the thing. I've gone through a whole night of playing, and I've seen like 5 players throughout the whole night actually type from the enemy team. It's kind of ridiculous. And, you know, maybe half of those were bad mouthing me, but that's completely expected. I mean, that's right. That's why it's there. But that's kind of the enjoyment of all chat, and you really should just launch the game and make it a mandatory thing on by default. I mean, the hide chat option is there for a reason, right?
Yeah, like I'll usually because once people start calling you names, they'll continue. So once I see a couple name calls, I'll giggle a little bit and hide. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm done. I made a few people mad. Okay, until the next one.
Like, just enable it by default and then give people the option to turn off all chat instead, right? Yeah. Make it only team chat. That should be a better solution.
Right.
Just a little toggle switch go into each one.
I'm sure they're going to change something. If there's more feedback, if there's a lot of feedback on this, they'll probably do something, but probably quietly, you know, because this is just something they never intended to have in their new Battlefield games. This is all chat's only in here as an option because of our feedback, and they made that very clear. So
I'm glad it's there, though.
It's there. Yeah. Because, it's there, but it needs improvements. Yeah.
Like Gravity said earlier, this game started out so timid. No scoreboard list, no voice chat. Exactly. They really wanted the 100% positive vibes only.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it all started in BF1, and then in BF5 was really like, we want to keep the spot. Everyone's gonna be level 50, okay? No one's gonna be talking about level 140 stars on your guns in Battlefield 1, and being toxic and all that stuff. So they just wanted to get rid of all that stuff. But anyway, there's some news, and Battlefield Bulletin posted this kind of like as a summary of the dev corner that they had at the release of the Leviathan Rising event. And in there, they were talking about some changes coming up. So it looks like the ability to chat during end of round transition will be looked at on consoles. Okay, so there's that. That's what Grav just was talking about. There's really great news that really stands out to me is the Jet, Hind, and Condor changes are on the way, which brings a smile to my face. But I wish they were a little bit more direct and just say exactly what you're gonna do, because it's all about that front gunner position. If you change anything else other than that, I'm gonna be disappointed. So that's coming up. So hope for the best on that. And then explosion spam is something they're looking into, especially with the introduction of the SPH launcher. I believe that's what it's called, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So there's a lot of things that blow up in this game, as per all Battlefield games, really. But Battlefield 5, they really kind of started to decrease the amount of explosion spam with all the cooldowns and whatnot. But there's ways around it. So I think people are starting to do that a lot with this game, especially with the introduction of Zane and the launcher, and the way people use the ammo kits and stuff like that. So we'll see what they do.
I just wonder what they do with it. Like, how do you really address explosive spam at this point? Do you like nerf
Longer
every
cooldown.
explosive at this point to longer cooldown on certain things would be cool, but like longer ammo reloads for explosives. I mean, the way that you reload everything is you just walk over a box and it's instantaneous. So do you nerf that? Do you reduce the damage? Do you reduce the ammo counts on things? I mean, it feels like it needs to be a complete, total, multi-step overhaul where you just nerf things piece by piece and then maybe see how it works out, like experiment with it. But yeah, there's a lot of explosives in this game anyway.
That specialist system really did a number. Like you said, Zane, Lizzie with the missiles, SPH launcher, too much explosives, too much.
Under barrel grenade launch. Like you have it all one. If you played with Zane, you can be the explosive spam specialist, basically. But
like that one for Zane's airburst rifle, it was totally new to me since I hadn't played the other Battlefields that had it airburst.
Yeah,
it shocked me how they could let something like that in the game, kind of like the Tor tank. Like, so you're gonna let me get shot behind cover just because a guy kind of thinks I'm there?
Oh, you missed out on the fun BF3, BF4 days, man, where you can just do that, spam that stuff in Metro.
Oh, baby.
Yeah,
it was spicy.
Yeah, you missed the 12G frag round USAS days. Oh goodness, that was
sounds like torture.
No, it was, but I guess the problem isn't that it's just one item being annoying, right? It's the fact that it's the compilation of literally everything. So you have all these ground and specialist weapons where you have the unique gadget that's explosive. You have grenades, explosives, underbarrel launchers that are explosives, rockets that are explosives. It's just having that is one thing. And then you include vehicles on top of that. You've got 30 millimeters on top of, and 50 millimeters on top of the Humvees and stuff, which is crazy.
Yep.
The Mavs are driving by with 4 turrets on top of all their stuff. The C Rams are driving by with 4 gunner seats. The Brawlers, right, are driving by with the 6 rounds incendiary launchers and stuff. What else? You have, tanks with the mortar pods. You've got, and then on top of that, of course, you've got all your helicopters and all your air transports with the 40 and 50 millimeters. So if you play around, there must be some data that says half of the kill feed in an entire round is explosive somehow, right? So at some point, you got to go, yeah, maybe we overdid it just a little bit.
And even the map itself, all the tiny little things that explode, that you're just walking by a wall and someone shot it 5 minutes ago and then bam.
Yeah,
those stupid red barrels that kind of like on a delay. Oh my god, why are those on a delay? Just blow it up, okay? I don't even know. Wait, do those the yellow drums with the corrosives? Do those hurt you? I forget.
I don't know. I will say I'm happy that they took away some of like the damage from like those, like the frostbite, the CO2.
Yes.
I'm so happy
yes.
they got rid of that, but yeah, more is required.
All right, so the last thing that they had on here was discarded. That map is like, hey, where the hell's the discarded rework? Oh yeah, it's coming. Probably here in a couple of weeks, I'm guessing, maybe even less. I'm not sure.
It could be end of the month or first week of May, I would assume.
Yeah, so they have a trailer for that, a teaser trailer of it. And from what we know, I think it's only on north of C. There's kind of like nothing there.
Where
And
do you have a link to this at all?
I don't have the link
Was
to
it
it.
in
It
an
was in
update or something? I don't know where it was.
Yeah, me neither. It was back there. I can't remember where, but they've added a new base. Basically, it's the new Bravo sector. It's just going to be above, north of where Charlie is, like the back end of the unfinished ship kind of thing. So they're just
here
going
we
to
go.
add a new base there. Oh, you found it.
Well, it's from the overview of the improvements they made for Hourglass. Yeah.
So that's the new base. That's just north of where Charlie is, or like the back end of Charlie. And yeah, it's kind of like this place seems recognizable. I feel like they moved it from somewhere else. Maybe it was during the breakthrough map. You know that very tall crane that's kind of like in the back of like near the spawns? It was during a breakthrough. I remember that. Like
well, there's the base
day.
that was far on the left that had the huge crane on it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they took that and they brought it here. I don't know. It looks familiar. This whole building area.
I mean, it's maybe.
But
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
that's the hourglass thing. I forgot about that. What is that?
Well, that would be. That looks like almost an underground section, but we'll see.
Yeah, that tunnel.
Yeah.
I hope they blow it out of the water. I really do, because that map is so terrible.
You know, this is gonna be a hot take, but I love Hourglass now that they added 2 Nightbirds to it. It's perfect for me because I have so many people walking across the sands. Like, okay, easy.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, okay. Anyway, so that's coming up. Hopefully it's good, because Discard's just such an awkward, weird map. It reminds me of that free Battlefield 1 map that we got with the downed blimp in the middle. Do you guys remember what it was called? They had the train going through the down blimp near the south.
Oh, I know the map you're talking of. Yes, it's
yeah. FlexLanes, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but it's like that. 3 in the middle and then 2 on the other end.
The objectives were on the blimp, right? One on each side.
Yeah, there's 3 objectives on the down blimp, or imagine the boat, Flex, and you have the 2 bases. But there were more flags on the edges, not just A and
Giant Shadow.
Giant Shadow, yeah. But we'll see. I mean, I think Giant Shadow is way better than Discarded.
Yeah, but I'm at the point in my game where it's like, if I hate playing Discarded more than I hate playing Breakthrough Hourglass. I really do. Like, at least with Breakthrough Hourglass, you can see what's shooting you for the most part. But that map, between the color palette, the weird positions people can sit on in the steel of the ships, and in the debris, it's just a pain. I'm kind of over it. I think it was better as a Conquest 128 map than it was on Conquest 64 and Breakthrough.
I don't know. For me, it's another hot take. I like the map. It's great for flying.
Yeah, in that case,
between points.
Yeah, I don't disagree there.
Yep. So we'll see what they do with these 2 new. Those are the 2 last ones, and then after that, people are speculating. It's like, what else are they going to update? Well, you got that 1 new map in Season 5 that's coming up. That looks like a hybrid of BF4, like 2 BF4 maps. Flex would have no idea what we're talking about, but maybe you'll like it, Flex. So when it comes out, there's 2 maps, so maybe if you wanted to look into them, were Giants of Corellia and Zavod 311, right? I think that's what it was called.
That's it.
And it looks like a hybrid of that. It looks like they just put Zavod right in the middle of Giants of Corellia. That's what it looks like to me, with the forest and the mountains and all that stuff. So that'll be interesting hybrid. We'll see what happens.
It will be
with
because it will be specifically because Zavad was a really popular map, but it was almost too small and needed to be expanded a little bit because it was very base campy. Like it was a very linear map, so that if one team kind of steamrolled the other team was like base locked. So it kind of needed to be expanded on the sides a little bit. And if you were to rework it in this game, you had that opportunity. Giants of Corellia, on the other hand, was a very large, very vehicle heavy map with a ton of verticality, and the majority of players hated it. They really did. Way too open. The pathing options sucked. There wasn't a whole lot of infantry zones. So I hope it's more Zavad than Corellia.
Okay. All right, let's move on to a new topic here that maybe might pique you guys' interest. Flex. So, what do you think about the call-in system? Remember it launched with the call-in system, a big feature. You could call in a robot dog, you could call in a tank or whatever on the roof during breakthrough and murder everybody. All that kind of stuff happened, right? Here we are, right? A year and some change later, the call-in system is just there collecting dust. And from as far as I understand it, the only people that use that call-in system are to call in robot dogs. And that's all it's kind of useful for. So I bring up to you, Flex, if you were to upgrade it or change it or remove it or whatever you want, what is your take on the call-in system today?
So I would add one more group to that. Aside from the people that call robot dogs, it's the people that want to put a wildcat on top of one of these spawn buildings. They say kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
Why would you allow that? So for me, get rid of the call-in system. Just make each person that wants to call in a vehicle come in from spawn once they're at the vehicle selection screen, because the call-in system, it's
useless, right?
Yeah, it sets things up for weird snaky tactics where it's like I've seen people put a wildcat, a bolt, and there was some other sort of armored vehicle on top of the kaleidoscope A spawn. So then you cancel out everything, all air vehicles on the other team, and it doesn't feel like you should be able to do that. It doesn't feel Battlefield to me.
I agree. One more unique caveat to the call-in system. Tankers are using it to call in tanks, specifically because the cooldown system on the call-in system actually works. So the moment a tank is available, it actually you can get it from the call-in menu faster than you can via the deployment menu, because the stupid deployment menu is still bugged and it doesn't have and it's still stuck, and you have to keep refreshing the thing, right? Toggle it off, toggle it on, and then the timer will fix itself. It's ridiculously stupid. So yeah, the tankers are using it for that. But other than that, I agree with Flex. I think if you were to keep anything, keep maybe just calling in the ability to call in light transports, because calling in a Jeep here and there, even if it's on a building, so what? As long as you get rid of the 30 and the 50 cannons. But like, that's Battlefield to me. Give me the ability to drive a Jeep right off a building, right? Or just something wild Battlefield-ish, right? I think that's fine. Calling down tanks and wildcats, I think, is a dumb idea in general.
I think this is a de-evolution of the classic commander mode that used to call in stuff, and it would come down via parachute, via a big box of ammo or a loadout crate, which is where they got the idea for Angel's setup. And the commander did a lot of different things, calling in a vehicle or whatever. It happened from time to time. But it's just so, now that they're changing all the maps, right, to bring things closer together, now the call-in system is kind of not what they were going for, right? They were there to bridge the gap between capturing sectors, calling in a vehicle, and then move on to the next sector. That was their plan. But now that they're going against that, let's upgrade this stupid call-in system. Let's make it better. Any ideas of anything other than removing it completely? Would you add anything to it, Flex? Would you add any things to it, or
it would be more of a change, just not allow people to bring stuff on top of buildings. I think that'll be an easy fix. Okay, allow a person to go to the corner map and bring down a wildcat. Just don't do it on top of a building. That's not where we're trying to go here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, just make it like red. and on those kind of area
Yeah.
elevations. Okay.
Out of bounds zone. You're not on the ground or something.
I still think the ability to have a squad call in ammo crates or some sort of unique, maybe something more than just a Jeep or just more than ammo, some sort of unique pickup or some sort of item that would maybe give the squad a little bit of a bonus or something. That might be beneficial. I was actually just sitting there toying around with the idea of if you're gonna maybe have call-in Jeeps, like, why not just go the extra mile? Have some fake C-130 come in overhead and then actually deploy the thing so that the enemy team says, hey, we know that there's going to be a drop coming so soon, so we can kind of intercept it or something. The other alternative is if you're going to put in a C-130 animation, like maybe Warzone or PUBG would do. I'm sitting here toying with the idea of a mechanic imagine you're playing Conquest and just an AI-controlled random C-130 kind of shoots overhead slowly, kind of like they used to do in BF3. Remember when they used to do, those maps? And somewhere randomly across the line, it somehow drops a deployment crate or a major supply crate or something that would give access to some weapon or something. You know, some bonus map exclusive battle pickup type of thing, like you used to have in BF4. So let's assume that they add some sort of really strong battle pickup in the game, and then you have this event mid-round event in Conquest where every 10 minutes or so you have this C-130 come over and suddenly you have a map-wide event where everybody's, oh well, we have to converge on this one location and fight over this weapon. Just a thought.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a weird, interesting mechanic I just thinking of with that, but just something different.
I think that will work very well because I feel most of the Conquest games ends up a team will start out strong and flip halfway. So maybe the team that isn't doing so strong capturing flags can go for that objective mid game.
Oh, yeah. Like a comeback mechanic.
Sort of, yeah. But it'd be like you really have to fight over it type of thing, and it's also not super like OP. It's not a it's not a blimp, right?
Flex has no idea what we're talking about.
I've seen videos of the blimp. Never experienced the blimp.
And this is of course just spitball, and maybe somebody else could run with the idea and come up with some cool concept of what to drop on the map. Maybe it's some sort of mobile fortification system or mobile thing that you can build on the map, or even later on call in a stronger vehicle. I don't know, but again, the idea of having some mid-round interactable that isn't a Levolution might actually be a really cool concept down the road.
So this is what I would add to the call-in system. Let's just keep it just exactly the way it is. Just add more options, right? So other than, of course, not calling in the vehicles or like the big battle tanks or whatever, I would add some sort of cover that could just come out of the air, like just falls down, like a hard cover that you can call in. Strategize. Say I want to go across, if I have enough points or whatever, or if it's available, I could call in some sort of like garbage pile or something that just kind of drops. I know it sounds silly, but I swear to God, people would use it, right?
A long line of Irish shields.
Yeah, exactly. That would be hilarious. Yeah, something like that, to where you can use it to your advantage to get from one area to the other that you wouldn't have otherwise, right? And it's limited, of course. The other thing would be weapon emplacements, man. Call in some sort of weapon emplacement as super limited ammo to where you can't just cheese it the entire round, right? Because when it's out of ammo, you're done. It's just going to stay there and it's going to blow up after a timer or something. But it's something you can use in a desperation moment, which I think what the whole call-in system was about. To either transport somewhere, but here you can use it as an offensive thing, super limited, maybe only one or two at a time over a big, whatever. I don't know. I think it might get abused in different modes, of course, so you have to be careful as to balance that correctly. But I think those kind of two things, plus the last one, would be some sort of smoke barrage. I think people really like that in Battlefield 5. But yeah, I wouldn't have like call in freaking, artillery fire. Like, I don't want that. I really don't. But those three things. Oh God, more explosive.
With what cover are you going to hide in this game from artillery?
Exactly, exactly. So those are the three things I would like to add to that. Now that it's becoming more and more obsolete, in my opinion, I think they can look into that. So those are my thoughts. But
Yeah,
anyway, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Actually, one last thing. Maybe they could also look into this. Especially me being in the Nightbird, and I see you call something in. It takes so long that half the time I kill the people that call down a tank or something, or calling down a jeep, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna let you get in the jeep, watch you get in,
Yeah,
so I could get the vehicle kill, and
it should be
you're killed.
faster.
Yeah, I don't know.
It should just be faster. It should come down faster. I think that would be nice.
I don't know about that. I mean,
A little bit. Come on, grab. Little
I've done it to
faster.
so many people. I feel bad sometimes. Like, oh, look at him. He's trying to leave. Yeah,
I
it's
get
kinda
that, but I mean that almost comes down to the, you know, why did you spawn on your teammate in the middle of this dangerous situation when you could have spawned at the flag 50 feet away and been safe, right? It's
yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Usually when I call in a vehicle like I don't know, just a regular LATV, right? I just get in and run. I just drive by myself. I don't even take a whole bunch of people with me. I feel like that's pretty common.
Yeah.
People just call in stuff and it's selfish for selfish reasons,
Right
right?
away. Yeah.
I think
Um,
maybe they should have it so that call-in vehicles, if they're not in use, should maybe like just pop and self-destruct within like 20 seconds or something. And
it's
maybe
fast. Yeah.
maybe that should be another thing where the light vehicles just as a result have a faster respawn timer than the other vehicles, so that people could call them down more frequently and use them more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to move on to another topic here as we're wrapping up the show. Gravity has been working on a really cool project. I'm just doing a little shout out. He's doing a 1942 map changes rework that he's tinkering with. And I believe he has, at this time of recording, he only has one video out. By the time the show comes out, I think he would have two videos out. Gravity, explain what you're trying to do here with the 1942 maps, El Alamein and Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah, so basically this came down to the idea was that Battlefield 2042 has a really big map problem, right? And that we don't have a ton of maps. We've had very slow content drips over the past several months, you know, getting one map a season. Yeah, you get the reworks, but that really doesn't count. And the portal maps, they still, some of them feel a little wonky and they don't get, you know, they're not used in Breakthrough or anything. So, you know, maybe we need some way to kind of spruce up the map quantity in the game. And I realized, well, Battle of the Bulge and El Alamein are sitting there in Portal, and they're not being used at all, right? I mean, but who wants them to be? I mean, you know, you play them in Portal, and they're only played in the World War II modes, or they're played in the hardcore Afghanistan hardcore modes or whatever, and that's whatever, let people have their fun, but they're not played in the main modes, right? So they're not really getting any use like they would like Eureka Harbor, Valparaiso, Caspian, and Oshar. So I thought, well, maybe I'll tinker with the maps, and maybe we can propose a design change on these things to make them viable for the main conquest layouts. So that kind of started this whole rundown of, well, how would we do that? How do you make Battle of the Bulge viable for 2042? How do you make El Alamein viable for anything? Because, I mean, even in 1942, El Alamein was a very empty map, and they kind of took away even the fun of that version by updating it and drawing a map boundary and protecting the uncaps. So the project aims, it's a video in 3 parts. The first project is kind of explains what I just said of why we're doing this, how we're doing this. And the second part of it is entirely focused on the Battle of the Bulge. And that was a 12-minute video that focuses entirely on remaking that map. And the third part will be entirely El Alamein. And if you can imagine reworking some of these maps, it's a chore, and I didn't want to do it in a way that wasn't meaningful, and I didn't want to make it in a way that was like forcing a DICE level design team to go, well, we need a bunch of World War II assets, right? We need to spend all this time doing this. So what my idea was, you know, in 2042, you've got all these assets that can be reused. You've got bases that they're designing that, why not just pick up the chunk of the base and throw it in the old map and see what happens, right? Can you redesign a flag with 2042 assets and do it in the easiest way possible? And then maybe, you know, you send this off to the level design team and they go, maybe at the end of the game, maybe we can throw these maps in the Conquest playlist. Or if we do them the right way, we can throw them even in the Breakthrough playlist, right? We can actually have more maps in both playlists. That'd be great. So by the time this episode of the Battlefield show launches, I'll have launched the first 2 parts of the video, which we're seeing the intro to this now. But essentially, we go through maps by Battle of the Bulge in this case. We split it up by changing the flag layout. Let's see here. So in this case, we add another flag down to the south, and we split up the D flags to make it a 7-flag map, kind of like Valparaiso. By the end of the video and across the whole video here, like we'll see here, we add graphical interfaces where we have... So this is the, what you want to say, the A1 flag that was on Breakaway, the one that's kind of in the village. So yeah, I just pulled the whole thing, and this is where the entire flag on Battle of the Bulge is just that little bunker.
Oh God, I love that freaking part of the map.
Right. So this would be this one new flag of the area, right? So the idea is that over the course of these videos, we add this, we change up the map layout, we add extra cover. In this case, Battle of the Bulge, we add extra bridges to the map to make it crossing the map a lot easier. And it just becomes a totally different experience. And I go through the whole roster of not just the flag layouts, but also the vehicle counts. Like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right? So okay. I completely changed the vehicle counts, and on this version, I propose only having 2 tanks and 1 armored transport and 4 light vehicles. That's it. Make it and be the only map in the entire game without any air vehicles, which is really weird to think about in the Battlefield game.
FlexLane's like, boo!
But it's seriously, it's the only one, right? Okay, never mind. But at least then you would have this infantry fight over the town. You know, players could actually, you wouldn't have air abuse, you wouldn't have tank abuse. And the final way that this map came together was, and we can see the proposal here, is you've got the old version and the new version. It's no longer Conquest Assault, it's Conquest Standard. There's 2 main bases, there's no base caps, it's 7 flags, a ton of new assets are added. It's a really cool concept. So yeah, this is what I'm kind of proposing, and we spent about a month and a half working on this one in the El Alamein video. And again, it's just ideas to maybe have it so that down the road, a level designer will go, maybe we can make this work in 2042. Maybe we can squeeze out as much content in the game as we can and add it to the extra playlists. So this is the second part of the series. The third part is El Alamein, and that's quite a bit more of a struggle because it's how empty it is. And at the end of the day, El Alamein is still going to be empty no matter what you do with it. But it required a lot more changes than what we have on this particular map.
Whoa. I like that.
Yeah, I love the idea.
So yeah, it's a pretty cool project, and I'm really happy with the way it came out.
Awesome. I can't wait to see this.
Yep, same here.
Yeah. Well,
I really love the idea of having a conquest with no air vehicles. I don't just want to fly, but I don't like playing breakthrough defense, so I end up in conquest flying. But I would love it.
Yeah.
You had breakthrough ideas, Grav?
So I don't have breakthrough ideas per se for this, like directly. I mean, theoretically, what you could do is you could just kind of start on one sector and work your way around, kind of like how the Rush version of it was when they played around with it. I don't see why you couldn't just adapt it for breakthrough and say, hey, here's 2 flags. Hey, there's 1 flag. Hey, there's 2 flags, and kind of go from there. And maybe you can do 2, 1, 2, and then 1. I don't know. Again, that was not my goal. Wasn't breakthrough, but it was a possibility. It remains a possibility. But yeah, I mean, in the end, it comes down to, like, there's so much open space on Battle of the Bulge, and I didn't want to change the terrain. Although I now have been informed that terrain is something that is very actually easy and for them to change if they wanted to. But in this case, I was like, well, there's this whole area here between A and C where it's just a flat hill, and I don't really... What are you going to do with the flat hill? So I built like a row of houses along the coastline. So in the end, it kind of ends up like being this Seine crossing Amiens type thing where you've got these houses along the road that are kind of... people can snipe across from, and they can be destroyed by the tanks, and they can guard the bridges, and it becomes this block, this line of sight blocker across, and I kind of like that more than just adding, snow piles and stuff. So overall, the concept is really I thought we did a good job. I had two other people that would help me out with it, and yeah, it's a cool project.
Very cool.
I had one question here. So you know how they mentioned a lot of the maps are at max memory?
Yes.
Is Battle of the Bulge and El Alame max memory? Like, because I doubt that, right?
So that was something that I had a conversation with somebody about, and there was a concern that maybe, the asset counts. I don't exactly know how that works and how
Right.
the map geometry, there's a limitation for it. I have no idea. I mean, El Alamein is empty, right? Like, how could you have a
Yeah,
limitation
right.
on that no matter what you add? The other part of it is, I mean, there's maps like Valparaiso that have a million trees and destructible houses. So to me, I don't know what the
It
limit
might
is.
be
One of
doable.
the interesting things, though, is when we came to vehicle counts, we were trying to experiment and figure out what the vehicle limit is in the game, right? Because like, how many tanks could you have on a map? Because we really don't know. The only way we really can experiment with this is through the portal mode. So we were doing some digging, and we found out that portal, you can, when you're doing setting your standard conquest game modes, they only allow you to have a maximum of, the same thing that's pretty much in the main game. 2 tanks, 2 wildcat categories, 2 jets, whatever. And then if you change it to custom, you can change all these categories to a maximum of 48 vehicles total. That's the cap according to Portal. So when I did the El Alamein video, I made sure that the cap was, I use that as a rule. I don't know if that's actual fact. But the fun part, the interesting part was, if you're going to do a standard conquest game in Portal, you are bound by those rules and you cannot change the vehicle count. You can take away certain vehicles, like you can take away tours or something, but you can't add like 3, you can't add more than 2 tanks whatsoever. But if you go to custom, then you can change that. But you are map restricted, map bound to certain things. Like, you are not allowed to use El Alamein as a map preset if you're using the custom vehicle count number. Interestingly, you could use things like the TDM map sizes for custom tank amounts, which make no sense because those are tiny little zones.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really weird thing, and I'm actually going to bring it up real quick because it's hilarious. As soon as I find it real quick. Let's see. Core, game mode, conquest. Okay, there it is. Custom. So yeah, in the custom mode, you have the categories of course, it's not going to show up here. Air superiority, custom combat, free-for-all, team deathmatch, ground superiority. And if you change it to custom conquest, which I believe is the one you need the rule editor for, the map list only has certain things. And it has Arica Harbor. It doesn't have Valparaiso. It has Orbital. It doesn't have El Alamein, Battle of the Bulge. But it's got Caspian Gas Station, Discarded Recycling Yard, Breakaway Platform. So Renewal Fields. It's really weird why certain maps, they said you can't use certain maps, but you also can use the TDM small version to have 40 tanks on it or something. It's really weird. Yeah, so maybe we just discovered something weird about Portal, and that you can't change the tank numbers or whatever, or the vehicle counts. So we thought it was interesting. Either way.
Okay, well, that's cool, man. I'm looking forward to that.
Yep. And that video drops tomorrow morning, so yeah, that'll be out by the time the episode is out.
Nice, good. Okay, let's about wrap it up here. I know, Flex. We were mentioning the last subject here. That matchmaking is getting a little weird. My matchmaking is gone from like 30 seconds to a minute and 30 seconds now for just like regular conquest. Are you guys experiencing this, Flex? You said you were having troubles with it too.
Yeah, the search times are now reaching close to 2 minutes. On that note, though, I've stopped. Like, sometimes you leave a match for whatever reason and you get put right back into the same match. That doesn't happen so often anymore. But still, the number growing is kind of worrying. Like, because it was fast before with less people. Now we have more people, but it's getting bigger.
You made a good point there. You made a good point that I didn't really think about that. Maybe because they said they were going to work on improving matchmaking so you don't go on the same, go back into that same server or on that same map. So maybe that's why it's longer, is that they made a change in that. Gravity, what do you think?
I think it's entirely possible that they did something to the back end that we don't know about, because they do that all the time. But and you're right, I've had 1 2 3 minutes of matchmaking time where it just takes forever to find a game. I don't know, maybe if it has something to do with the Leviathan Rising event, but my logic says that there's not that many people playing the Leviathan Rising event at this, a week on, that it's completely destroying the server amount for Conquest and Breakthrough. My assumption is that maybe it's utilizing old other servers that would normally be running Conquest and Breakthrough, and maybe they're just have a lower server count and it's taking longer to find them. The other possibility is that maybe there's a decreasing player count and they took servers offline or something, and we're just fighting for extra time on servers. There's a bunch of possibilities here, but I don't think we'll ever know. But I do know that it is frustrating to wait 2 minutes and then find that map that you don't want to play again.
So yeah, this is a PSA for all you guys listening to the program. We're experiencing it too, so you're not alone, and hopefully they can fix that moving forward. But Flex, I wanted to give you the stage here. Where can people find you? What are you thinking about 2042's future? Like, give me your thoughts on those two things there.
All right, so you guys can find me on Twitch, FlexLanes, and on Twitter, FlexLanes. Had a tech top, I kind of stopped that. Soon enough, I'll have a YouTube eventually once I get around to it. But future of 2042, with so many people getting it through Game Pass, getting it through PlayStation Plus, and the numbers are just growing everywhere. I see more positive comments, vibes, tweets coming around. Even though some people are just still on the negative, this game doesn't work. I like it. I've had fun since the very beginning, and I really, really, really hope there's a year 2 and more seasons coming out, because I would definitely enjoy it. All the people that watch the channel enjoy it. I mean, I've been watching your videos and comments on YouTube. Like, people want more, so I hope there's more coming.
Yeah, I agree. Year 2, let's go. Let's go, Dice.
I really hope so.
Why not?
At this point, you're right. I really hope we get a year 2 as well. I think the game deserves it. I think they put enough effort. They put enough effort into the game where I think it's a viable option. Partially due to the fact that you're right. The feedback is there. It's all positive. A lot of it's positive feedback, and the player count is up massively compared to where it was a couple months ago.
Yep.
Well, I'll keep playing too. Well, thank you so much, FlexLanes, for joining us on another episode of the Battlefield Show. Gravity, I'm glad you're feeling better. Looking good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for being the wonderful co-host as always. And I wish you luck on your video project there.
Thanks.
I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, you guys can catch the show here on YouTube. Don't forget, we are on YouTube. You can watch the video version of that. And we're on all podcast platforms out there. Go check us out. Leave a like and a review. And we shall see you soon. There's some updates coming up, I'm sure, with the discarded and everything else. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoy this new episode. Don't forget to subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll catch you soon, okay? All right, bye-bye now.